What is going on, everyone, and welcome to a special video. So a lot of you guys have been asking me what add-ons do I use and what are some good ones. So I'll be explaining all of them and going over why I use it and how they help me. So for all of you console players, I'm sorry, this is not a video for that, but in the near future I'll be making a build video that works for everything, PC, console, it doesn't matter. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but for today's video, the add-ons I use. Okay, so let's go on to it. Now, some of these, I don't use a lot of them like some other YouTubers or just whoever you guys watch, I guess. But I just use what's important and try not to clutter my screen with a lot of garbage, essentially. So, let's start off with the easy ones that only take like 20 seconds to explain. Sky Shards. Sky Shards, pretty self-explanatory. It shows you where all the Sky Shards are on the map because looking for that as a guide or something is not the most fun thing to do. So if they're just on your map, they're right there. If you see these thingies, these are Sky Shards, it tells you where they are. Excellent. That's next. Minimap, and this one essentially, as you can see at the bottom right of the screen, it shows you your minimap. It's fully customizable, so that means you could like make the size bigger, you can move it wherever you want. Let's see, where is it? I'll just show you on the add-on screen. Minimap. So there's a lot of options you could use to essentially customize it, make it bigger, smaller. Node settings, like all the zoom options, and pretty much like however you want it. If you want it to rotate when you rotate, you can. I don't like that, but sometimes I do. And then it shows you like point of interest, like quests and stuff. You could click it and it shows you what you're missing. All the other stuff right here. It's actually quite helpful, believe it or not. If you are playing this on PC and you're not using it, instead of hitting M every time, you just have a mini map right there, and it shows you like a little cone of which way you're facing. Also, in some dungeons, such as like Cradle of Shadows, you'll know that the final boss has a mechanic where she teleports you to another area. So sometimes you don't have that split second to press your M button and look where you're going, so that's why it's pretty helpful. So that's why I use it. It's not always important, but I just kind of keep it on because I don't like hitting the M button over and over. Alright, so next one on our add-on list is Master Merchant. I guess we'll just go up from bottom to top. Master Merchant is definitely one that is not like going to be used by everyone. Now this is more of like an endgame thing, or if you sell a lot of stuff. So the way it works is you see the MM price, like let's say on this item right here. It's called Master Merchant. It tells you how many things have been sold within your trading guilds or just guilds in general. And it tells you how long it's been since like sales pretty much. So like all the items, you can set it to how many days you want it to calculate it from. There's a lot of details for it, but just too long didn't read version. It tells you the average price of the economy essentially for various items. So yeah, so like when you're looking in the store, I'll just show you something. For example, I don't know, let's search for something. So like when you're searching in the store, it tells you the prices. Red is bad. That means like you can find it cheaper. Green is good, or green is like discounted. Purple sales are good, blue sales are good, and gold means you should most likely buy it. So essentially, with this Master Merchant, there's a lot of tweaking you're going to have to do, and LUI error that comes up, you're probably going to have to raise that, the memory, and it's in your files somewhere. It's pretty easy, just like copy paste somewhere else. You could probably find that everywhere. But essentially, the most important things you should have as an option are the sales history size. Usually the lower is the better, because it could tell you, like let's say an item you're looking for, how many sales has it sold, or like how many times has the item been sold in either 10 days or 90 days. Generally, lowering the gap makes it sometimes harder to find an accurate price, but if it does show a price, it means like it's been sold more recently, so that's like the more recent price, I guess you can say. So that's when you know what's more accurate and whatnot. And then how long it takes to scan in, or like between the checks and refreshes. And this one shows like the minimum number of sales to retain history, and then total number of sales you can do. So a lot of these are personal preference, and this is just what I like to have. As for the calculation and tips, I kind of just left it on default. I don't really use it that much. And then alert sounds. So the interesting thing about Master Merchant is you have this little button here, and it essentially tells you how much you've sold in like 7 days, 30 days, whatnot. And it just kind of keeps track of it. You could also search for like other people's sales, and then if you want to show like all info, what's been sold recently, how much things cost. So it's helpful, but you really have to be in a trade guild for this to really matter. If not, then don't really worry about it too much. So other than that, I just kind of like keeping everything. But anyway, that's Master Merchant in a nutshell. It's pretty much just showing you market prices. Alright, so next on our list, we have LUI Extended. Now this one is probably going to take the longest to explain, simply because it has a lot of things. So first of all, let's show you what LUI Extended is. You see this thing right here, where my health bar, the damage meter, time, and all that stuff, and then it pretty much changes all that from the default. Now, you could still technically have the default if you like it. You don't have to change it, but I kind of find that having a huge color bar right on my screen tells me, hey, you might be dying or something. So, let's go into the options and take a quick look. Now, let's start from top to bottom. Info panel. As you guys can see right here, they have a lot of options. You can show your FPS, like right here, you can have that on or not. Latency, have that on. Now, technically, they have that in the official menu, where you can just show it down here and move it around. But if you just want it customized, they could tell you when to feed your mount, armor durability, Imperial City trophy counts, and all that stuff. It's pretty cool, actually. But the less stuff I have on my screen while I'm in the middle of a fight, the better. So that's pretty much it. Now, combat info. Hold on. Combat info, it pretty much just tells you when you can cast ultimates, when you're ready to use something. Tells you when to execute, essentially. Numbers, good. Change the font size, everything's customizable. And most of it I kind of just left on default, but the important things I changed up. Alright, so next, buffs and debuffs. Let me just show you this right here. You see at the bottom of my stamina bar, that's the green one, actually. So if I like casted a lot of different skills and then just toss down everything, you can see at the above my minimap and the right side and the left side of my bars, you can see the little buff timers. It essentially tells you when things are happening. And then you see the bar on the right, it's essentially your target. It tells you how much health they have, what they do, and then like it'll be debuffs on them. So if like, for example, if this was an enemy and then I shot like a poison arrow at them, it'll tell me like how long they're still poisoned for. So that's pretty helpful. So let's go back into the add-on options. So that's what the buff tracking essentially is. You can move everything around, show like long-term and short-term effects. Most of them stuff is kind of dumb that you don't really need. If you know like what Mundus stones you have or what Mundus stones other people have, it really doesn't matter. Disguise is kind of useless. And then show vampire or werewolf. Now this is kind of helpful in PvP, because if you're a vampire, you take more fire damage. If you're a werewolf, you take more poison damage. So being able to see what other people are in PvP is really helpful. But if you're just doing PvE, it really doesn't matter. It just kind of clusters your screen. Cyrodiil bonuses, and then other world buffs would probably go here. And if you're stealth, it tells you. So next is the damage meter and combat log. So as you guys can see right here, this is the damage meter. It tells you how much damage you've done, how much healing you've done, and how much damage you've taken. And this is your over time effect. So once I do that, I'll show you something real quick. So damage meter and log is show the enable timeout threshold, so you customize this how you like, and update in real time, show fight labels. So let's see, let's go find an enemy real quick. I guess this counts. So as you saw, I did 5,000 damage over here, and then usually if it's a boss fight, the timer will tick up longer just to show how much damage you've done in total. So just for this sake, you can click it, and then it'll just tell you, it'll link it in your chat, the name of the enemy you're attacking, how long it took to like kill the enemy, your total damage, and your DPS average. So that's kind of helpful just to like compare if you're like working with people to help figure out how they can improve. When you ask them like how much damage do you do, and then you just click it and then they show you, and then you can work on that from there. So that's where the damage log comes in. There are a lot of other ones you can use. Another popular one is FTC, Foundry Tactical Combat, I believe. I used to use it, now I don't, just because LUI has it. It's essentially the same thing. So I mean, if I'm going to use an add-on and it has it, why get two different add-ons for it, essentially? But that one's a really popular one. FTC has a lot more customizable options, but for me, it really doesn't matter. And yeah, that's been the damage meter. And then the combat or chat announcement is essentially if you want to see what kind of items you loot, or let's say if you buy something from the merchant, it tells you how much gold you spent and how much you have total. And then this one is like, if you want to see what your party loots, then you can. For the most part, I really don't care. And then, yeah, announcements, trophies, all that stuff. You want to see what other people do, you can have that on. You could stalk them as well. But for the most part, it really just clusters your chat log. So, with that said, LUI is pretty important just because it changes that. If you want the default, you can still use it. Have a damage meter, have a clock, show how many like soul gems you have, buffs, and all that stuff. So, LUI is probably one of my favorite ones, actually. So next, we have inventory grid view. This one's going to take like 10 seconds to explain. Your inventory, by default, it looks like this. Don't you just hate scrolling up and down to look for a certain item every time? Good, me too. So now you can see all your items at once. Excellent, that's what you want. And then if you have an ESO Plus bag, it just essentially does that. It lags so hard if you're an ESO Plus member. And then just because it has like infinite slots, sometimes it takes so long just to scroll down. But then, and then it shows your currency. Well, I think all of this is by default, but so quick slots and all that stuff. But that's pretty much it. If you like seeing all your items in one instead of having to scroll down every single time, then inventory grid view is very handy for that. And then it also shows you colors and a little red or colored square. So that's helpful. Now next we have buff timers. You're going to see the buff timers to around here somewhere. So let's say I'm casting a lot of skills like that. You see the buff timers. Instead of looking at the little square at the bottom of my health bars, there's a big like rectangle thing that tells you, okay, the thing is about to run out. So technically this works with all classes. The way it works is when you go here to your add-ons and your buff timers, you can have up to 15 different bars tracking your abilities. I found that the more bars you have on your screen, the more clustered it is, obviously. So it's really important just to pick the ones that are important to you. So in my case, as a sorcerer, I only want Hurricane, Critical Charge, or Surge, I think that's what it's called, and my Endless Hail, so I just know when to recast. So 3 is really fine for me. So the way it works is you have a different, or once you set the number of bars you want, you type in the name of your skill, and then you can set it to like change the size around for everything, show the picture. Yeah, technically you can just pick any picture you want, but generally having the picture of the accurate icon is important. So that's how it works. Essentially, with that, you could add some extra notification settings. If you have a sound and like a ding sound just to tell you when to recast. That's kind of good. I don't need it. I just look at the screen, and if you want a text to show like something on your screen in the middle of your screen is like recast, then that'll be there. So I don't have that. I just kind of look at my screen because you can look at it to know when to recast. But for everyone who needs like an extra notification ding or something, it helps, I guess. And then the colors, you can adjust that as well. And then let's say you're using this for multiple characters, you can set different profiles. So if like you have a sorcerer and then like a dragon knight or something that uses completely different skills, you can set different profiles, and then the refresh timer, and then everything else. So buff timers is essentially something for people like me who need a bigger bar on my screen, or you have an ability you have to actually recast every, I don't know, 12 seconds. It's kind of helpful for me just because it doesn't always show it, especially in big like boss fights where you have a lot of skills going off at once and you're getting buffed by like every class. You're not always going to be able to see your abilities, and you're just going to be clustered with like 15 abilities right here. So just having the important ones, having tracked is kind of good. So our last add-on that I have is Awesome Guild Store. Now this one, I feel like it works 80% of the time. So, as you may imagine, every time you go to a guild store, you have it, like, you have to talk to the NPC and then skip it, the dialogue. So this one, they, for some reason, and I mean they as in the developer ZOS, never added a text filter to merchanting. So you have to manually search everything the hard way. And Awesome Guild Trader, what it does is allows you to search things by text. So I already had a preset thingy that I show. Like, let's say if I wanted a red mountain thingy, I just type it in. You can have it save your history as well. So let's say, for example, let's reset all the filters. If I wanted to find a champion point level 160 to 160, or like 150 to 160, for example, I could do that, and then it tells me like what kind of like rarity item do I want. Do I want anything? If not, do I want to look for blues and higher? I can do that only. And then how much do I want to pay for it? If I wanted to pay like 10,000 or 1,000 to 50,000, for example, I could set it by that. And then if I know what I want specifically, I could just type in the name, which is probably the most important thing here. And then they have a deal range. So the deal range is essentially red is overpriced and gold is a really good deal, and everything else is like okay, reasonable, good, great. So the way this works is if I want to search for a specific item, I could look into apparel, light armor, and then more specifically I can go into more detail for a certain armor. Like, let's say I wanted a shoulder piece in Divines, and then it doesn't really matter for this one. If you know very specifically what you want, you can just type it in. And then for the style, I guess if you want something more specifically, this helps. But then let's say I want something like that. And then so from what I searched, I wanted a shoulder piece in Divines. Nothing really specific except from 150 to 160. I found a 160 shoulder piece in Divines. That's essentially how this works. Now, let's clear the filter for here. If I want to search for like gold deals and purple deals, or blue to purple deals, I can do that. It shows you like right here. See, the master merchant price, as we mentioned earlier, is you can resell this for up to 500 gold. This one is being sold for 150, so that's like a profit. So if you're trying to make money and you're looking for somewhat easy ways, master merchant and Awesome Guild Trader kind of work together, so you could find cheap things and resell it. Now you're gonna have to like know what you're doing for the most part in terms of like master merchant sales and whatnot. So I guess that's a way you can say you can make easy money, but you have to have a lot of time to literally go through every guild trader and just find like purple deals and stuff. So like for example, gold deals, if I wanted, sometimes they don't have it. Sometimes guild traders don't always have what you're looking for. So if you're just like looking for random things and just in general, you could do that still. But for the most part, that's pretty much it. That's all the add-ons I use. Most of the stuff I have are relevant because I actually need it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to let me know what you guys use as well. Be sure to drop a quick like. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. Hope you enjoyed everything you heard and what you saw here. And feel free to subscribe. And I do upload videos 7 days a week, every day. So with that said, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys next time.